Okay, this lesson is Unit 6, Lesson 2. It's all about figuring out how we can translate a figure, but using graph paper on the coordinate plane. So remember, a translation, you want to highlight this word and you want to put a little line underneath the SL, which is going to help you remember the definition of a translation is a slide. The SL is in the middle of the word, and it does mean you are sliding each point of a figure in the same amount in the same direction. Okay, if you were to do a different amount in a different direction, it would totally distort the figure. And the idea is that for a translation, that pre-image, the original figure we start with, and the image we create have to be the same size and shape. Remember, we talked about the definition of congruent on our last lesson. Figures with the same size and shape are called congruent figures. And when you're sliding, the figures are congruent, like this example down here. So we have to learn one other quick thing about notation. The original figure, or the pre-image, is going to be labeled with the letters A, B, C, D, or sometimes they use other letters like X, Y, Z. And the image, the figure that was created by doing our transformation, is going to have these little tick marks, okay? So you'll see A prime, B prime, C prime, D prime. That's how you know this is the image. This was created by sliding this. So if we read the directions, it says in this example, the slide, or we'll have to use our vocabulary, the translation, moves the figures 7 units to the left and 3 down. So I've had kids look at this and say, hey, that's not 7 units. Okay, well, the problem is you're comparing D to B prime, okay? D has to be compared to D prime. C has to be compared to C prime. But I'm going to have you look at, I think B. I think we're going to look at B. So B is sitting right here on the graph. And if we slide it over, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, we are going to be directly above the image point B prime. So I agree, it is definitely a slide to the left 7. And then if we do 3 little bunny hops down, we will also see that their directions are right. This image, not just point B, but even point A, has moved over 7 to the left and down 3. C got moved over 7 to the left and down 3, and so did D. And that's how we were able to create an image that was the exact same size and same shape. They have to be congruent for the translation to be done correctly. So, along with the movement part of this, we have to know that there are actually 3 ways to talk about a translation. The verbal description is what we just did. We talked about it was moved 7 units to the left and 3 units down. This type of notation is a little more interesting, I think. It tells us using the coordinates x, y, we will take our I coordinates and subtract 7. And the reason they come up with subtracting 7 is because we went to the left 7. This is your x-axis. All your negative numbers are to the left. So that's why they used a minus 7. And then because we moved down 3, that's why they used a minus 3 with the y value, because this is your y-axis, right? Positive numbers are up, negative numbers are down. So it's not a coincidence that they used a minus sign for the 3 as well as a minus sign for the 7 because of the verbal directions. Moving to the left, negatives, moving down, negatives. The other notation usually doesn't have this set of parentheses, but what they'll do is they'll grab those numbers, negative 7, negative 3, and then we know that this is the x direction, this is the y direction. Just like a normal ordered pair would have x in front of y. This chi notation, okay, it's a really shorthand way of saying, hey, we're doing a translation. We're moving it to the left 7, where all the negative numbers are, and we're moving it down 3, where the other negative numbers are. So, on the back of this note sheet, if you have this all filled in, we're going to have a practice problem to do. And let's see, it says this triangle, ABC, is going to be translated 1 unit to the right and 4 units up. We're supposed to draw the image of triangle A prime, B prime, C prime. So again, when the graph is done, you will have capital letters on each corner. But our new figure, remember, our image is created by this translation. So we need to move every point to the right 1 and up 4. So if I move point B over 1 and up 4, it should be sitting here. So I'm going to label it. This is my image point, B prime. I started with B, and that's why it's B prime. C is going to move the same amount. So I've got to go 1 unit to the right, 4 units up, label it, C prime. And again, A gets moved the same amount according to our slide. 1 unit right, 4 units up. Get rid of that. I didn't mean to put that little dot on the paper. Okay. So again, one of the things we look for on a translation, this is considered a rigid motion. It's not going to change the size or the shape of the triangle. The original triangle was this big. The image is the same size, same shape. Okay, all I did is slide it over and up according to these directions. Now, we're going to look at our coordinates for a second. A prime got moved to the location 2, 1, if we write the ordered pair for that location right there. B prime got moved to, I believe, 4, 4. And it looks like C prime got moved to 5, 2. And one of the interesting things some students notice and they really would rather work on is the coordinates, okay? Each of these x coordinates have been increased by positive 1. Each of the y coordinates have been increased by positive 4, all right? And that's the relationship that we were talking about up here. Moving 1 unit to the right is a positive 1 on x, and you moving 4 units up is a positive 4 in the y direction, because all your positive numbers are up on the y-axis. So that's why we can just take our coordinates, add 1 to the x's, add 4 to the y's. Some students want to do it this way and then graph the points. Other students want to work on the translation like I did. Just move it by hand, move it over, move it up, plot your points. It's up to you what you feel more comfortable in. Ultimately, though, we have to be comfortable with our notation. So again, we have the verbal kind of written direction up here. We moved it 1 unit to the right and 4 up. Using the mapping directions with the points x and y, because we moved it to the right, positive 1 is going to be used here. And because we moved it up, we're using positive 4. Okay, you won't always have plus signs or both of these being minus signs. It all depends on the move that we did. And we happen to be moving to the right, which is a positive, and up, which is a positive. Your T notation goes here. All we do is we grab the directions that we went to, positive 1 on the x, positive 1 on the y. Okay, so this part of the note sheet is completely filled in. Again, the goal today is to get comfortable with the translation, the sliding of the figure, and they will always give you the directions either written, like this, we call mapping, or like this, which is kind of like just a capital T saying, hey, we're translating, and this is where we're going. Okay, so we're going to get some practice with those numbers and how to use that notation. The other note sheet that you have, you're going to want to start out by labeling. The image we know is this shape because it's A prime, B prime, C prime. We know this is the original shape because it's got the plain old A, B, C. And your job is to pick one of the 3 points, okay? It really doesn't matter which one you pick, but in order to figure out how far it moved, you kind of need to do those little bunny hops. So starting at C, I'm going to pick. I know to get over to C prime, I have to go 3 units to the right, and I have to go 2 units up to get there. So this is my verbal description. I'm literally going to tell in words, I moved to the right 3, and I moved up 2. Now to put it in the mapping direction, remember it's like having a point x, y. In the x direction, didn't we go to the right 3? That means I'm going to use a positive 3 because on the x-axis, all my positive numbers are this way, right? Moving up, think about your y-axis, okay? All your positive numbers are moving up, so that's why I'm going to say y values got plus 2. I moved up 2. And then again, my T notation, I don't need the x and y anymore. I'm just going to grab my numbers. I have a positive 3. I have a positive 2 that describes this movement of going to the right 3 and up 2. Okay, so that's your first practice problem. This one tells us this is our pre-image. This is our original shape. This is where we're going with it. Be careful that when you pick a corner of your shape, you make sure that when you realize it got slid all the way over and down, that point lands on this point here. Okay, so if these have been labeled, this would be like A, and this would be like A prime, the image. Okay, so I'm going to draw the little bunny hops because I want to make sure I count all my boxes correctly. And let's see, I think that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I moved it to the right 7. And guys, this time I definitely have to move the shape down. So from where I'm at this corner, it's 1, 2, down 3. So guys, think about your x and y axis. When you're moving to the right, that's a positive value on the x-axis. So that means my mapping directions is still going to say x plus 7. But because I'm moving down 3, that indicates negative. Think about your y-axis. If 0 is in the middle, your positives are up, your negatives are down. So we have to say y minus, that was 3. And then, of course, t notation, we just grab the numbers, positive 7 and negative 3. And those are written as a subscript. They're little tiny numbers down below the capital T. And again, that's going to describe this movement of to the right 7 and down. I never put my 3 up there. There you go. Okay, so double check the problems on this page, remember, are kind of done for you. You're describing them, writing it in mapping notation and the T notation. Make sure you have this one. And then I want you to pause the video because on the next side, if you flip this over, there are 2 more. That's not it. There are 2 more questions, okay? And your job is to try this. If this is the image with those little tick marks, and this is the original shape, you're going to figure out how far they slid it over. Same thing with this one. Your original shape's here, plain old ABCD. How far did they slide it to turn it into this image? And try working through that notation that we're learning. So again, pause the video, try it on your own, and then play it to check your answers. Okay, I hope you tried this. Here is a way to figure out how far they slid this original shape over. If I count boxes, I believe this is 10 boxes, and we are definitely moving to the left. So I have to say left 10. And then from this corner, I believe it is exactly 3 boxes down to get to the image point of x prime. So remember, x turns into x prime. I could have very well just counted w to w prime or y to y prime or the z over. I just chose x. Each point is going to be the same amount, so it doesn't matter which one you choose. Be careful, though, writing your mapping directions, okay? Because we're moving in the negative direction, think about where your x-axis is. All your positives are this way, your negatives are this way. So because you move to the left, you have to say minus 10. And because you move down, you have to say minus 3 for your y value. And that means for the T notation, you're saying negative 10 comma negative 3. For the bottom one, we had to take this trapezoid, and I believe I was working on the C, and if you look where original C is, I had to move over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to the left, but then I had to go up 3 this time. So because I moved to the left 6 in the x direction, that's really a minus. See all the negative numbers that are here? The y direction, though, was a positive 3 because I was going up. So make sure you have a plus 3 to your y and an x minus 6, grabbing the negative 6 and the positive 3 to get your T notation. So I hope that you've got a good introduction now on translations. Your job is to tape these into your notebook where lesson 6.2 belongs. And then you've got an assignment that goes along with this, that if you read carefully, you're going to see that I want you to plot and label the original shape, but I also want you to do the translation that is given to you. All right, so give this a shot. If you get stuck on it, obviously let me know. But most importantly, make sure you get your notes taped in your notebook. And make sure you show me so I can give you points for doing your notes.